Across the stars, every species follows the rhythm of nature. Seasons for birth, cycles for love. Except one. Humans. They broke the pattern, defied biology, and became the only species always ready to reproduce. And today, an alien student is about to find out why that makes them the most fascinating and most terrifying creatures in the galaxy. The Galactic Academy shimmered like a jewel in orbit, suspended above a blue nebula that pulsed like a living heartbeat. Inside, hundreds of alien students shuffled into the Grand Hall of Life Sciences, a place where biology wasn't just studied, it was worshipped. Among them was Aurea of Azura 9, brilliant, curious, and proudly logical. Her blue skin caught the neon light as she adjusted her data slate. To her, emotions were evolutionary errors. Curiosity was survival. Today's xenobiology lecture, however, would challenge everything she believed. Professor Raxel Thorne, a reptilian scholar with silver scales and an attitude sharper than his claws, slithered to the podium. Today's subject, he hissed, tapping his holographic board, is the human reproductive cycle. A few students giggled. Aurea frowned. Humans? Those new, unpredictable creatures from that chaotic planet called Earth? She'd heard they were intense. The lights dimmed. A rotating hologram of a human male appeared, tall, muscular, confident, his pinkish skin strangely radiant. Gasps rippled through the hall. Aurea tilted her head, studying him like a scientist might study a dangerous animal. Raxel continued, his voice dry. Unlike nearly every species in this room, human males have no mating season. They are fertile, permanently, constantly. A silence followed. Then murmurs. Then disbelief. Aurea's hand shot up. That's biologically inefficient, she said. Wouldn't constant fertility drain their energy? Before Raxel could answer, a deep human voice from the back called out, "Depends how you use it, Professor." Laughter erupted. The voice belonged to Cadet Clark Mason, human, smug, and entirely too comfortable being the center of attention. His grin was infuriatingly confident. Raxel glared at him. "Mr. Mason, your kind's peculiarities will suffice for discussion. No demonstrations required." More laughter. Aurea scribbled notes, her brows furrowed. Humans, driven by hormones, emotion, and arrogance. Yet there was something magnetic about their chaos, something dangerously alive. As the lecture ended, Clark caught her gaze and winked. Her heart, usually calm as data, skipped just once. Note to self, humans may be reckless, but their unpredictability triggers heightened curiosity responses. Possible anomaly, emotional contamination. For the first time in her academic life, Aurea didn't want to understand a species. She wanted to meet one. The Academy's library wasn't just a place for reading. It was a cathedral of knowledge. Floating orbs of light drifted silently through rows of transparent data shelves, and the faint hum of holoscreens filled the air like digital rain. Aurea sat at a secluded table, surrounded by books on human physiology. The more she read, the less sense it made. Always fertile, emotionally volatile, prone to risk and attachment. She frowned, tapping her stylus against her chin. "How has this species not self-destructed yet?" she muttered. "Good question," a voice said from behind her. She turned and nearly dropped her tablet. It was Clark Mason, the human from the lecture. His uniform was half unzipped, his hair carelessly perfect, and his grin infuriatingly casual. Aurea straightened in her seat. "Cadet Mason, I'm conducting research." He leaned against the table. "On humans?" "Yes, specifically your unregulated breeding cycle," Clark chuckled. "Wow, nothing like making a guy feel special." "It's purely academic," she said, but her pulse betrayed her. He pulled out a chair and sat across from her. "All right then, Doc, ask away." She hesitated. "How do you maintain focus if your body is constantly ready to reproduce?" Clark smirked. "Practice. And coffee." Despite herself, Aurea laughed, an involuntary melodic sound she hadn't made in years. It startled her more than his answer did. They spent an hour trading questions, hers precise and scientific, his teasing and unpredictable. For every chart she cited, he countered with a story. Bar fights, heartbreaks, moonlit dances. He spoke of Earth with a kind of nostalgia that made even his chaos sound poetic. When the closing bell echoed, Clark gathered his notes. "You know, Blue, you've got a strange way of flirting." Her cheeks flushed a deep violet. "That was research, not flirting," he winked. "Sure it was." After he left, Aurea stared at her notes. The data suddenly felt alive, unquantifiable. New observation: human interaction produces irregular cardiac responses. Potential side effect: loss of objectivity. As she closed her tablet, she caught her reflection in the glass wall, eyes brighter, lips curved. For the first time in her life, logic felt overrated, and curiosity. It was becoming personal. A week later, Aurea's worst fear and secret hope came true. Her name blinked on the assignment roster beside Clark Mason. Project topic: cross-species behavioral chemistry. She reread it twice, hoping it was a clerical error. It wasn't. The laboratory gleamed with cold blue light, full of scanning pods and humming consoles. Aurea stood with perfect posture, stylus ready. Clark leaned casually against a counter, chewing on a nutrient stick like he owned the place. "I assume you've reviewed the methodology," she said. He grinned. "I skimmed it. I'm more of a hands-on learner." "That's concerning." "Relax, Doc, I'll behave." He paused, then added with a wink, "Mostly. The first phase involved monitoring emotional responses during close proximity tests." Aurea adjusted the sensor band around his wrist, careful not to make skin contact. His pulse jumped instantly. "Your heart rate is elevated," she observed. "Maybe because you're standing this close." She took a cautious step back, trying to ignore the flutter in her own chest. "That's not scientifically relevant. Feels pretty relevant to me." The monitor beeped louder. Suddenly the lab's containment dome flickered, then sealed shut with a hiss. Red warning lights flashed. "Containment lockdown." Aurea's eyes widened. "What did you do?" Clark raised his hands. "I didn't touch anything." Steam rose from the vents. The air grew thin. She started breathing fast, panic. Claustrophobia wasn't common among Azurans, but she'd never been trapped before. Clark's voice softened. "Hey, look at me." She met his eyes, steady, grounded. "Inhale, exhale," he said calmly. "You're okay." His hand brushed her arm, warm and steady. For a second, the alarms faded. Just two beings, one logical, one chaotic, breathing the same air. When the system finally rebooted, the dome hissed open again. They stumbled out, laughing breathlessly. Aurea tried to sound composed. "That was a malfunction." "Sure," Clark said. "Let's call it chemistry." Later, as she reviewed the data, she noticed something impossible. Both of their biometric readings had synced perfectly during the lockdown. New entry: unexpected physiological resonance. Subject and researcher exhibited simultaneous stress relief. Aurea stared at the screen, heart racing again. Whatever had happened in that dome wasn't just science. It was the beginning of something neither of them could quantify. After the lab accident, everything between Aurea and Clark shifted. They still met for research, but the air between them carried something unspoken, something that made her pulse race faster than any sensor could measure. She tried to hide it behind data charts and logic, but logic was failing her. Her notes had stopped sounding like research. Observation: human smiles cause irrational warmth. Conclusion: unknown variable, possibly dangerous. One evening, while analyzing human genetic archives, Aurea uncovered something astonishing. Human fertility wasn't random. It was a survival adaptation. Centuries of near-extinction events had rewired their biology to stay ready, always, in case the species needed to rebuild after catastrophe. She stared at the data, awe replacing confusion. "They don't reproduce out of excess," she whispered. "They reproduce out of fear and hope." Clark found her still awake in the lab, holograms flickering across her face. "Still trying to decode us?" he asked gently. She smiled faintly. "I think I finally am." "You aren't reckless, you're resilient," he laughed softly. "Most people call that stubborn. I call it extraordinary." The silence between them stretched, soft but electric. For the first time, Aurea wasn't studying him. She was feeling him, and that terrified her more than any data anomaly. Then the alarms blared. A red pulse flashed across the lab. Biohazard breach detected. Outside, chaos erupted. Rogue nanites, a swarm of malfunctioning AI drones attacking the Academy's infrastructure. Students fled through the corridors. Clark grabbed Oria's arm. "Stay behind me. You can't fight those." "Watch me." He ripped open a maintenance panel, hot-wiring a defense drone. Sparks flew, alarms screamed, and Oria caught her first glimpse of what human unpredictability truly meant. He fought with no plan, no hesitation, pure instinct and heart. When a drone exploded nearby, Clark shoved her to safety, taking the hit himself. The shockwave threw them both down. He was bleeding, grinning even through the pain. "Told you!" Always ready, she pressed her hands to the wound, her voice breaking. "Don't talk. You saved me," his eyes softened. "Guess that makes us even, Doc." As medics rushed in, Oria realized she wasn't afraid of humans anymore. She was afraid of losing one. The days after the attack blurred into silence. The Academy was safe again, but the rumors weren't. Whispers spread like plasma fire, the Azuran and the human who broke every rule. Oria ignored them, but every corridor felt heavier. Clark was recovering in the med bay, bruised, and still managing to charm the nurses. She hadn't seen him since the explosion. Then the summons came. Disciplinary council hearing. Unauthorized human interaction. The hall was cold and bright, filled with faculty and holographic recorders. Oria stood alone at the center, her data slate trembling in her hands. Professor Raxel watched her from the front row, expression unreadable. "Student Aurea," the Chancellor intoned, "you are accused of emotional compromise and interference with human behavioral data. Do you deny it?" Before she could answer, the doors slid open. Clark walked in, bandaged, limping, but alive. "If anyone's guilty, it's me," he said. "I'm the one who pulled her out of that blast," the Chancellor frowned. "You endangered yourself and a fellow cadet," Clark shrugged. "Call it a bad habit, saving people." A ripple of uneasy laughter spread through the crowd. Even the Chancellor's stern face cracked slightly. Oria stepped forward. "He didn't endanger me. He proved everything this Academy claims to teach, that knowledge means nothing without compassion." She activated her hologram, displaying the research she'd completed in secret, the evolutionary proof that human fertility was tied to survival. "Not indulgence they endure," she said softly. "They keep going when logic says stop. Their constant fertility isn't chaos, it's hope encoded in DNA." Silence filled the room. Professor Raxel finally spoke. "Perhaps the student has learned something worth keeping." The council deliberated, only minutes before clearing them both of charges. As they left the chamber, Clark leaned closer and whispered, "Guess we're officially legal now." Aria rolled her eyes, but couldn't hide her smile. "Barely." That evening they met beneath the Academy dome, stars swirling overhead. He offered her his hand. "So, Dr. Aria, what's next for your research?" She smiled. "Field study. Long-term human behavior observation," he laughed. "Lucky subject." As they stood together under the nebula's glow, Oria realized something her textbooks never taught her. The universe wasn't defined by order or logic, but by the messy, magnificent courage to love without a season.